It's not my problem. It's not my problem. When I feel heavy metal, and I'm pissed and I'm when I lie and I'm missing all of the time, but I'm never sure why I need you. Please let me shout.
All right, welcome to the Prospect Podcast. I'm Coach Schumann on a beautiful, freezing Saturday. Friday. Sorry, Saturday. Oh, jeez, I love to get to Saturday.
Rushing the weekend.
Friday. I'm rushing the weekend, dude. I'm rushing the weekend. Friday. I have Coach D, as always, here to my left. I'm sure he's excited, too, about another possible storm. But we have a fantastic guest here today, Coach Dustin Martin, out of the Fort Mill, South Carolina area. He's an athletic director. He owns a company as well that's focused on tackling. So I have him titled here as a tackling guru, and we'll dive into some of that stuff as well. Defensive coach, coordinator. So he wears quite a few hats out there, and we're going to really dive into a bunch of things from each one of those areas. And so we're really excited to talk to Coach. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. I really, truly appreciate y'all having me on. You know, we started a podcast about 10, 11 months ago, and I underestimated all the work that goes into it. And I know that you guys understand that. So I just want to say, for everybody who listens, I appreciate what you do and all the work you put in, because, you know, it takes a lot that people don't realize. And I think there's a lot of people who benefit from what people who take the time to do this like y'all do. I appreciate y'all having me.
Oh, thank you. It's actually a ton of fun. It's made me a better coach. I'm sure Derek feels like it's made him a better coach too. I'll let him talk about that himself. Obviously, I don't want to speak for him, but yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal, and you get to know obviously a lot of great coaches, a lot of guys and girls that are helping athletes to become their very best and to give themselves a better opportunity in life, and coaches to be able to do the same. I mean, I would say at this point, we're probably serving more coaches than we are serving athletes, even though athletes obviously can get a lot of the tips and training stuff and all those kind of things from what we put out. But I would bet my bottom dollar that the majority is coaches now, right? Of trying to get better. That's why it's called the Prospect Podcast, because it was originally kind of focused like stuff that could help, that athletes could learn from, but it's really morphed into a lot of stuff where coaches really helping in a lot of cases, other coaches and parents too, right? You know, people who want to get their kids to be the best they can be. So we're really glad to have you on, Coach. If you could dive into kind of your career in the space of football and coaching, and obviously all the way up to now, what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. When I grew up, I was the little chubby kid that everybody looked at and said, "Boy, do you play football?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't do that." I actually, in 6th grade, I think I was in the band. I wanted to do the snare drum. Drumline was a huge movie, and they said you gotta start on the xylophone, and I was like, I'm not trying to do that. So So that was the year I officially signed up for football. Long story short, you know, at some point in time, if you're a coach, there was a coach that impacted your life to get into the profession. And that happened for me the spring semester of my 9th grade year, Coach Bradley Adams. And he came in, man, and I could just tell there was something different about him. I could just tell as soon as he walked in. He mentored me as a coach when I was a player. And, you know, senior year of high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, man. Like, everybody tried to steer me away from the education profession. Like, there's no money in it. It's terrible. You got to work with kids and just all these different things. And, you know, at the time I'm 17, 18. I'm like, but they get every weekend off. They get the holidays off. They get the summers off. So I was like, man, there's more to it. So long story short, I ended up playing on the inaugural team at Limestone College in Gaffney, South Carolina. I was there for 2 years, started at center, and, you know, just kind of lost love for playing, you know, the 5 a.m. lifts and the beatings every day at playing offensive line. I was like, you know what? I want to coach and teach. I just want to go ahead and get into that immediately. So fortunately, a guy named Bobby Carroll, he coached Davion Clowney, Stephon Gilmore, all them guys in high school. Me and his son were really tight at Limestone. He was a quarterback. Spencer Carroll. We transferred to Winthrop University, and I got the ability to start coaching at a big 4A high school in South Carolina called York High School. And it was just a different level than I've ever been a part of. And the way they ran the program, the commitment, the organization, the structure, the practice schedules. And thankfully the good Lord was looking out, put me in a place like that. I learned so much in my first 3 years of coaching. And then over the last couple of years, I've had a really great opportunity to see this game through different lenses. I've had the opportunity to be a coordinator on both sides of the ball, a head strength coach, a head coach, and now most recently an athletic director. And I just think it has given me so much value to see it in every different angle. That's only going to help me try to influence coaches, but also when I achieve being a head coach again down the road.
Phenomenal stuff. It's interesting because as we've been doing this, there's a lot of coaches now that have dived into coaching really early, like prior to even like getting out of school. And and I think part of it's become there's more opportunities now than 25 years ago. So you could see that, like, if you see that, like, hey, I'm a good player, but like I'm not going to the league. And if you're not, like, let's say on scholarship or something like that, where you're kind of obligated to be there, and you say, hey, there's a lot of guys that have moved up really fast. The guys that we've interviewed that have gone that route and it become wildly successful quicker, right? Because of those opportunities, which is pretty unique. Like I mean, for me, being an older guy, the older guy in the room, at 52, it's something that I really would have never like imagined back when I was playing. You know what I mean? So like there was like a certain path to it all. And so I think it's really cool. I think it's really unique. And guys like Mike Leach and God rest his soul, and Jed Fish and those kind of guys have kind of like shown how it can be done. And it's, the traditional way isn't the only way to do it. I think that's pretty cool. And then now you see it all over the place. I mean, Mike McDaniel, so there's so many guys and so many paths. And what I think is really interesting is that coaching has become a profession, right? Where before it was, what's a word that you would use for it, Derek? What would you say?
Kind of looked at like a hobby, right? Like almost like just something else somebody did, you know what I mean? Or if you were a teacher, hey, you got paid, but right. But at the same time, it was like, you just kind of
teaching was your thing, right?
Yeah.
Teaching was your thing.
It was never the main thing.
Right. It's become more and more, and 20 years ago was like, I can't believe I'm saying that, by the way, which just mind boggles me that I'm getting that old. I'll be 52 on Sunday, which is just crazy. Because I still feel like I'm like 20 years old. I don't know. I still feel like I can roll into the club and have a good time. Yeah. So it's really it's very interesting to me. It really is. It's fascinating because it was one of those things that, like, when I first started coaching, my girlfriends at the time would be like, yeah, what are you, cheating on me? Like, because I'm spending so much time coaching. Like, it wasn't a thing. And now that's really like, what are you doing? Like, coaching? Why are you there till 10 o'clock at night? You know what I mean? Like, that would be like the thing. So, but it's very, very interesting. So having said that, I'd love for you to talk about kind of things about coaching that really has appealed to you, and the things that you're like, hey, like, this is something that I want to do.
Yeah, man. I mean, early on, I felt like even in high school, I just had a knack for helping people. I was the type of kid in high school, man, and in college where I didn't buy the textbooks. I didn't read the material. I was going to find the most efficient way to get the information I need, and I'm going to pass the test. I'm going to pass the class. That's just how my brain always worked. It was like, why would I read 99 pages for this class that I really don't care about when I could read 23 and still pass the course? So always had a knack for helping people. They would come like, and I just kind of found that I look at things from a math standpoint, and I think that's why football is such a good sport for me, because it's all about space and movement and numbers, and the appealing thing to me early on was helping people, and I knew I wanted to do that in some capacity. I just didn't know what it was. I mean, I went down the road, man. There was at one time I think I was going to be a nurse or something. I don't have a clue. I was trying to find, in high school, how can I make the most money? How can I help people? That was all it came down to. Well, I achieved one of those two. I still am helping people, but I'm not making the most money in the world as some people is. So, but the thing that appeals to me about coaching is the fact that when you play a team sport, it teaches you how to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. And if you coach for the right reasons and do it the right way, I think that still stands true. And I think different levels of coaching, and if we look at a football staff, assistant coaches, their main goal is to help the players, build the relationships, help the players. Coordinators, they do the same thing, but they have a little bit more admin on their side. They got to be the head coach of their side of the ball. And then as a head coach, you got to be an admin for the whole program. And depending on your situation, you may still call one side, but it's really program development with the kids. And that was the thing that kind of appealed to me, is no matter what stage of coaching, you're still going to be connected to the kids. And even in this athletic director role, I'm learning that there's still a part of connecting with the kids, but a lot more of it is admin duties and dealing with the coaches, which is another thing that has interested me, because I get to try to help and build and mentor coaches that are going to go and impact players directly. So that's kind of what appealed about coaching to me.
It's a phenomenal thing. One of the things that I found that's so amazing about coaching is the impact that you make. Talk about so your kind of genesis of moving all the way up to athletic director, and talk about that part of it.
Yeah, so I think I started actually coaching high school football in 2015. First year ever, I was a volunteer coach, didn't get paid a dime, but that's just how much I loved it, wanted to get into it. I coached for 3 years at York after that, 5, 6. So after year 6, I got a call from the same guy I worked for at York, Coach Bobby Carroll. And he said, "Hey, we're at this new charter school. We're looking for a head strength coach, someone who's going to help coach the offense and defensive line. It's a little bit smaller school. I know you want to be a head coach and think this would be a great stepping stone for you to get there. You can see the game through the strength coach." So I've been at Legion Collegiate, a charter school in Rock Hill, South Carolina, I'm in my 5th year. And they have kind of allowed me to uniquely move up and learn different positions. So they trusted in me to be the head strength coach. And then I took a head coaching job, and they still found a way for me to be a part of that school in some capacity, even though I was a head coach at another school. And then they also had an opportunity where they wanted me to be the athletic director. So that was a great opportunity that led me to that position. And, sometimes I try to think, why did they choose me? There's a million people they're interviewing people, like, why me? And, they told me straight up, they said, "We just want someone who we feel that can grow and mentor people." And that was a great comment to me. I took that really, really, it humbled me a little bit of, listen, like, you're doing something that we see trying to help impact people. And we'd love for you to try to come and be in this role. And I'd be lying if I didn't say it wasn't a challenge, man. It is a challenging role. But I will say, with this being said, being a head coach 2 years before this role, people always call and ask me, man, hey, how's being the AD? Is it the same as a head coach? I said, well, here's how I'll explain it. As a head coach, it's like you're a parent, and all the parents, the kids you deal with, or you're dealing with every single day. So if you have a quarterback's parent who is a little overbearing and wants to really be involved, you have to deal with that parent every day. But as an athletic director, you're more of a grandparent. So you only have to deal with those kids, AKA those parents, when they come over on the weekends, and then you just kind of solve the issues. And then you might not deal with them again until the next problem in 6 months. So that's the difference. They both have their challenges, but I think you have a chance to impact adults more and mentor adults more. That will directly impact kids.
Yeah. And I also, in having done this for this will be year 17 on the sideline, right? Been at different programs, smaller, bigger, suburban, urban, private, public, the whole gamut, right? You see certain athletic directors that go about things a certain way. You see coaches that go about things a certain way. When the alignment is all on par, right? And you have that vertical alignment where everybody's in the same, on the same, wavelength and whatnot. Like, those are the most successful programs. And to me, the job of a really good athletic director is a guy that takes all of those things off a coach's plate, that takes away from the coach directly working with the kids and putting them in the best spot, right? That's, to me, those are the best athletic directors I've been around. They know what they know what a coach doesn't want to deal with, or his focus should be elsewhere, but he's got to deal with this because, whatever it is. I also think one of the biggest things for an athletic director is literally just showing your face, like you just being there, right? And I get it. It's hard, right? Because like, you're there later than everybody else, and the last game doesn't end until this, but you still got to be in there for school hours and do all that other kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, you knew what you signed up for. So if you have to go off site to this wrestling match or whatever, but then you got to get back home because you got to get back to your home school because you got a basketball game at night. Like, you just got to be there as much as possible. And I think the kids realize that. I think coaches respect that. I think parents, when they see that guy or female in the building or at the events, I think that just adds a little bit something to it. But I know Dave's been around some really good athletic directors. I won't speak for him, but I know for me, like, the best ones are ones that show their face and they take things off the coach's plate that know that a coach doesn't want to deal with, or he can now keep his focus where it needs to be. That's just how I feel about it.
And I totally agree with Coach 1,000%, and that's kind of why I enjoy the way my journey kind of has laid out. I got the chance to be a head coach for 2 years, and now I'm an athletic director. And, I'm big about always trying to be better. That's one of my just beliefs. And there are times where I'm dealing with a head coach and they act the same way I acted as a head coach. And I'm like, this is so like a self-aware thing. It's like, man, like, you acted like this. Like, you at times as a head football coach acted like your program was the biggest program. It meant the most. And it's like, so, and that's just another great thing about humbling yourself and understanding there's probably ways I could handle things better. But then it's also rewarding for me because I get to say, hey, I was just like you.
Right.
And here's what I've learned. This is where that can get you. This is where it can help you, where it can hurt you. And so that's been really fun. One thing I'm big about is we have athletic department policies that protect the head coach. So as a head football coach, we had, your typical 24-hour rule. We had we don't discuss playing time rule. Now those are athletic department rules. So I have a meeting with all parents across all sports and say, hey, here are the athletic department policies. Our coaches are protected. You have to wait 24 hours to approach them about something. The kids must talk to the coach before the parent can talk to the coach. Now, that is depending on the situation. But minor situations, the kids need to communicate first. We're not going to discuss playing time at all, like the coach or roster selections or making teams. These are all discretion at the coach, and I support their decisions because they are the experts in the field and they were hired to do this job. And I think that goes a long way with the coaches because, like you said, it's alignment, and I'm taking that off of their plate so they can just say, hey, listen, this is an athletic department policy. If there's an issue with one of these items, Coach Martin said he's more than welcome to meet with you. And like you said, I think that goes a long way.
Those are great points. I think one of the things, once you have that stage, like if a coach is doing something that you don't agree with, you're just going to let them go anyway, right? So it's that gives the parents the understanding that, hey, like, we support our coach, we have expectations, and then if for some reason that isn't aligned with our school's values and what we're doing, we go in a different direction. So, and that is a hard thing for an athletic director because I'm sure they want to pick up the phone and call you, and ask you a lot of questions over and over again. So that do when you have parents that decide to trump the process, and let's say they have a valid, how do you handle something that's a valid thing? Like, so for example, let's say the athlete went to the coach, whatever the issue is, you know what I mean? Let's say that maybe they have there maybe is validity is something that the player, coach addresses it in his way, but doesn't really answer the question. Parent then addresses with the athlete, the coach stonewalls them. What is your process at that point? And like, how do you manage both the coach and the family at that point? Because that probably is probably your number one issue, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're big about communication and alignment within the admin team. So that's a huge thing. All of my coaches know, listen, I'm going to defend you until I can't. So understand that. I have your back until you give me a reason not to have your back. So if there's a situation, for example, where player and parent has tried to resolve something with coach is stonewalling them, they're probably going to reach out to me. The very first thing I'm going to do once they reach out to me is I'm going to go to that coach. Hey, I need to hear everything from your side. Explain this entire situation. Please don't leave anything out, because I need to understand, even if it's the coach's view versus the parent and the player's view, I want to know the situation. So as the AD, I can gain my view of the situation, because there are a lot of times where the coaches mean well, but their tone and delivery is not the best way to get to the parent. And another thing that I'm aware of, I was that coach. My heart meant well, but sometimes my blunt, strong-minded, this is how we do it, there's non-negotiables, I've slowly transitioned to, it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray. And the more standards and rules you set, the more issues you're going to have. Because if a kid misses practice, I grew up in the mentality, you miss practice, you're sitting out a half of football no matter what. You miss 2 or 3 practices, you may be kicked off the team. I still don't believe in missing practice. However, everything is situational. So now it's not, hey, if you miss practice, you're sitting out a half. It is, if you miss practice, the head coach and the captain's council will discuss the appropriate reaction to you missing practice, so we can do it. So to close it up, coach, I would approach the coach first, try to get a grasp of the situation, and then I know exactly at least what's going on. That way I can prepare how I need to handle it to make sure that I guess both parties are satisfied. I won't say both parties are happy or both parties get their way, but you know, I think that's a huge part of how you handle that.
Do you think that coaches are better off with less rules and more just having a standard of what they expect from their players versus having rules? Because one of the things I always found as a coach that, like, rules, and as soon as you break one of your own rules, you got a big problem, right? So you're better off with less rules and more standards, and then it gives you the flexibility. But there probably are some things that you know, coaches feel strongly about that they want to have as a couple of rules here or there. Talk about that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great thing. And, you know, me and Jamie, we do the Coach Speak podcast, and I'll never forget the guest we had on. His name is Drew Marlowe. He's a head football coach at South Florence High School, and he's a great dude. And like you said, selfishly, like, you know, we started this for coaches, but I think I learn more every episode we have. Like, I selfishly get to learn more. And he always talked about, you know, he talked about when he became a head coach his first year, he had a lot of standards and expectations. He said, but they blended together. They said, and he said, so now we have true standards of this is what you're going to meet. And then we have suggestions. He said that I'm willing to bend on or at least take considerations from other people. And I think that's kind of how I feel in that situation now. I think there are non-negotiables. This is who we are and how we're going to do it. However, we can discuss it. So, for example, our basketball senior nights are coming up. I had a discussion with one of the parents on the parent committee. My goal with that conversation is I want to keep the parent committee happy. That's what I want to do. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to do everything they want to do. But so how the call kind of goes is, listen, here's the non-negotiables. Here's how we're going to proceed with senior night. I have the Google form created for the kids to fill out. We're going to announce everything, uniform one way for all teams. However, what are your ideas? What do you want to present the kids? How do we want to present the parents? And I think that's where it comes, the collaboration piece. You have the structure and the organization piece and the logistic piece, and then let's talk about dressing it up. How do we want it to look like we're doing a great thing? Our baseball coach right now does a great thing. They allow the mom to stand off beside home plate. The dad pitches their last pitch on senior night. They hit the ball, and as the player goes around and runs all the bases, the announcer reads a note from mom and dad to that player. And it actually made like national news. Like I think Good Morning America like had the coach and the player on, and it's like I would have never probably came up with something that great.
Hell no.
No. And it's like, so we're
coaches. We ain't that creative, buddy.
No,
We're not no, absolutely not.
So I just think you have the standards, and then you let the other people add the window dressing to it to make it just beautiful, if that makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense. And I think that's always the difficult part for coaches, to be able to manage that and learn that part of it. And part of it is because you're trying to be successful, and when you're trying to be successful as a coach, and you're in a scholastic environment, there are two things that are being managed there. So that's always a difficult part for coaches. And that's probably why you have the rise of club stuff too. Probably, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. But it is always difficult for coaches, and obviously the best coaches manage it well, and do a good job of managing that whole process. Does as an athletic director, do you have to set standards and expectations and rules with your own coaches? Like, what do you have to do from that standpoint when you first start and you hire a guy? What is that from that standpoint?
Sure. Yeah. So I don't mind talking about my situation currently. I've been there since April. So I came in towards the end of last school year. Just a quick little background. There was an athletic director who was there that stepped away. And then there was a guy on campus who has a ton of AD experience that stepped in the role to bridge the role for about a year and a half, until I stepped into the role. And when I took over the school was not a part of any state association. They were an independent charter school, which independent means a free-for-all. Let's just be honest. There were no rules on practicing. There were no rules around governing anything. Our soccer programs were playing in the fall in North Carolina and playing in the spring in South Carolina, because they're independent. It was kind of like just an academy that kind of did whatever they wanted to do.
Right.
And that wasn't just along the lines of practicing and skill development. That was along the lines of many things. We didn't have a rep. Coaches could buy what they wanted to buy from any vendor. They could buy uniforms from here. They could purchase this from here. And I'm just a super uniform guy. Let's do it all the same way. And let's establish a brand, So when I came in, the biggest thing was we're going to establish the core values. We're Legion Collegiate Academy. That's LCA. And that stands for legacy, consistency, and authenticity. And that's a big thing that we try to hang our hat on in everything that we do. It's we want to leave it better than we found it. What do we want to be known for in every room? That's legacy. Consistency. This is the biggest one I stress with our coaches. The less parent issues, the less player issues, and the more success come from being consistent, understanding what's expected always, even when you don't want to do it. And then authentic. Don't fake this. Let's make it where the kids feel like, you know what, this was the most enjoyable experience. We didn't win a championship. The season may not have went how we wanted it to, but it was authentic. The relationships were authentic, and these guys really cared about me. So that's kind of when I came in. And, when you step into an environment that has kind of been that way, where you can really see that it's been really independent across the board in a lot of multiple ways, you have to rein it in. You have to set those standards and expectations. Now, with that being said, humans are a creature of habit, and I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't a creature of habit. Not a big change guy. I hate change, but I understand when change is needed, and I understand when it's valuable, and you have to find a way to change. So the biggest thing is understanding that the implementation of those rules or standards or expectations, it's not ever going to be as quick as you would like it to be or as quick as you think it should be. And I think that's where grace comes in. So it's like, hey, I understand this is how it's been. And a lot of coaches may have been hired with the understanding of this is how it is. We're an independent school. You can do this, and there's no parameters around how much you can practice or play. And I think, when you start establishing those expectations and those standards, it's something that you have to give the ability for your coaches to say, hey, this is not what I agreed upon. And so you kind of talk a little bit and you try to figure those things out. But I definitely think the biggest part is establishing your mission, vision, core values, and let them know where we're headed. And I think you slowly have to phase some things out, and then there's like hard stops on some things. So, we're currently now a member of the South Carolina High School League, a state association that went through this summer as of July 1. So all the rules and regulations they have, it's a hard stop on this is how we were doing it. We're going into the league. This is how we have to do it. And then everything else kind of follows. And we're in a really good place right now. Our coaches are some of the best in the world. And I'm really excited to see where we're going to be at fall of 2026 when school starts back up next year.
I'm sorry, I muted myself there.
All good.
That's an interesting scenario where you're in an independent school and you had to really set all the standards yourself with no previous environment. So it's kind of cool though, because you get to do it the way that you want to do it.
Yeah, and it's kind of almost like the school was rebuilt again in a way. The only difference is everything's already in place. You start a brand new school or brand new program that comes with ordering new equipment, ordering this, building this, hiring, staffing. And it's kind of like, hey, everything's already in place for you. You just have to do quote unquote the easy part, which I think is one of the most difficult parts. You know what I mean? It's the culture building, the standard setting, and but it's been a great transition. Our coaches have been super open to, hey, this is where we're trying to get to, and I'm just thankful for the people I work with every day.
Very, very cool. Switching kind of gears a little bit, so going towards the football side of things.
Sure.
So what like you're a defensive guy. What are some of the important things that you felt like when you kind of build in the defense and trying to build a defensive unit that are important for that group to be able to be good?
Yeah. So I talk about this. I've talked about this before with some people, but I started out as an offensive lineman. So I feel like I learned the game the best possible way you can learn it. Yep. Started on the offensive side of the ball. I started in and I worked my way out. So I understood OL play. I understood run game. And then I branched out to pass game and quarterback play. Then I decided to flip sides of the ball. And I think that has given me an upper hand because if I'm watching a film on four films on a team and they're a counter team, well, when they see an odd front versus when they see an even front, sometimes their blocking assignments change. And, and I've been around some defensive guys where they're like, man, they're running a completely different play. And I'm like, well, no, the tackle's arcing. So to see what the four eye is going to do versus odd. And so long story short,
they look at you like you got 10 heads because you're talking that way. They're like, wait, what are we talking about here?
They're like, no, I think this is some kind of arc trap play. And I'm like, well, no, guys, it's still just counter. They're just changing the blocking assignment of the place I tackle. So anyways, I feel like I learned the game in a very great sequence of inside out, offense first to defense. I became an offensive coordinator, I think my 4th or 5th year of coaching. And after that season, I said, man, you do not know near enough about defense to even be a great offensive coordinator. I knew defense, and I think there's a difference in knowing defense and actually understanding defense. I could drop every coverage. I could drop every alignment. I could drop every front. But I did not understand the goals of defense or understand what they're trying to do and what the coverages and the alignments. So went to the defense side of the ball. And after about 4 or 5 years on defense, I can tell you, the scheme does not matter. let me rephrase that. We might need to edit that part out. The scheme does matter, but the scheme only matters if you understand what you're trying to do in the scheme. And that comes down to the techniques of football: pursuit, setting the edge, tackling, turnovers. Those 4 matter more than anything else. So understanding when you're trying to get the ball to go outside and when you're trying to keep it from going outside, understanding how you get to the football, understanding how to make tackles when you get to the football, and understanding the more chances we can get our offense and our team the ball, the better chance we have to win. And, I think for a long time, I thought it was, hey, man, we can just have the most sophisticated and highest level schemes out there. Like I know this scheme from Alabama. Well, great. I'm glad you know it. How are you applying it, and how can you execute it where your kids are actually executing it? Like, you can be aligned correctly, but are you having the techniques to execute it the way that you want to execute it? So that's kind of what I believe in.
It's interesting, Coach, because you talk about, scheme and all that kind of stuff. And, younger guys want to come in and, hey, I can do this, or, hey, I went to a clinic and did that. And it's like, well, that's great. Like, one, what can our kids do? Right? Like, you got to know your players. So you tell me what it is. 2, how do you teach it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you teach this? Because that's great if you can sit up there and understand it, or the assistant coaches can sit there and understand it. But can you break it down so that our guys can now understand it, and can they execute it at a high level, right? Yep. How can you keep it? How can you simplify it? How can you do, because it's all great. It's all, and I get it. All these guys want to watch all these YouTube videos and do all these other kind of things, and that's phenomenal. But
sure,
can our athletes do it? And are you capable of teaching it to a level where they can understand it and feel confident enough in it to go out there and play fast and play really, really well? Because that's really what it all comes down to. And I'm just like you. I think I learned it the right way in terms of coming up as a coach and whatnot. And I think having played defense in college allowed me to look at offense from a different perspective, right? And then, coach it that way in terms of, hey, like, I know as a defensive quote guy, what hurts us or what really makes it a hell of a challenge to be a DC or those kind of things. So I think guys learning the game, they just want to jump into it right now. And I can be a coordinator, I can call plays. And it's like, hey, you really got to take the time, learn the game from the front back in terms of offensive line, defensive line, next level, and go from there. Cause it all starts up front. And a lot of these, look, most guys now we can hire them and they can go and they can do 10 minutes of individual because they can watch videos of and YouTube, do all that other kind of stuff. But can you schematically and as an entire system teach it, coach it, break it down to a point where your guys understand it? I think that's one of the most pivotal things about being a coordinator or coaching or doing any of that, being an assistant. And a lot of guys they miss that part of it.
Yes.
They're in such a rush to get a title or to call plays or to do those kind of things. I think to really slow it down for them and break it down. I mean, most of these guys couldn't draw scout cards if you asked them to, right? Or
and
they couldn't dial it up.
I have 2 things I really hang my hat on. The first one is application over knowledge, and that's a huge one for me. Are you a teacher or are you a teller? Which one are you? Because anybody can tell a kid where to align and what to do, but can you teach them how to do it? It's hey, you can tell them hey, you got Scoot's technique and you're reading 2. If 2 does this, we're doing this. Okay. Can you create an actual technique and a drill and actually apply what you're telling them to do? Like, hey, if the tackle down blocks, we're going to get our hands on and squeeze. You good? All right. Well, if that was the case, everybody would win.
Everybody would be good.
If we would just had to tell what to do, we're good. So the next part that we really are big on, and I say we because me and Jamie align a lot. Like we discuss a lot of things, but it's alignment, assignment, and technique. And that's how we break it down for the players. Listen, there are 2 things that we're responsible for as coaches, and that's getting you aligned and teaching you what we want you to do. The third one solely comes down to you, and it's called technique. And that's called you as a player being on the field and being able to execute what is being asked of you. And that comes down to technique. So we try to make sure our players understand, listen, we are going to do our best we can as coaches for alignment and assignment. We're going to give you the best alignments to put you in the best position, and we're going to give you some sophisticated assignments that are going to help accelerate how you need to execute. Here's the part that comes down to you, player, the technique part. we need to do a good enough job at coaches and teaching you the technique, and then you got to go be able to mirror that technique in a live setting. And I think when the kids kind of hear that, they understand, okay, coach has my back. He's going to put me where he needs to put me and tell me what I need to do. It's my job, my ownership. I need to learn the technique so we can execute this scheme he is trying to ask. And it's great to be able to show kids, hey, here's what happens when you do what you're coached to do and you do the technique. Here's what happens when you do what you want to do and you show a good play. Here, listen, you did what you wanted to, and guess what? You got a tackle for loss. I'm happy for that, but here's why I'm not happy. You got away with it. Watch the next 3 clips when you did that and you didn't get away with it, and they got 7 yards on a run play they should have got -1 on. And I just think we're a big ownership type teaching style. So I'm a big, when I go through film, I will chart obstructions, everything that went wrong. So we have goals. We have goals of this is how many yards we want to give up on a run play. This is how many yards we want to give up on a pass play. Any play that exceeds those goals, there's an obstruction. Something happened that went wrong. We chart what position group it was. We chart the category it was in, and then we put notes beside it. So, for example, if we have a defensive end who ran upfield, he didn't get his hands on squeeze and get inside the pooler, it's going to be DL, reaction to down block, and notes, ran upfield. And then we're going to look at that as a group, as a coach, as a staff, and say, here's why we gave up 6 counter plays that went for 6 or more yards. We have to work on what these things say. And a part of that, the ownership piece, there's a category where I can type coaching or I can type scheme. And I want the kids to know, listen, this is a bad play call, guys. Hey, we called a double A blitz, played cover 1 behind it. They check speed option weak to trips. Guys, like if the defensive end is supposed to peel with the back,
buddy.
So it's like, guys, like that's on us. They got us. They called a perfect call versus the defense we're in. But I think that goes a long way with the players because they go, man, if Coach Martin's man enough to say that was his fault, he screwed up, they're more prone to saying, Coach, that's on me. I did this wrong. And so that's kind of what we believe a little bit in terms of reaching the kid in different ways.
Yeah, I think the value of everyone being accountable is an important thing, especially in today's player, and I think that's a big deal. And while continuing to hold them to like a standard of being able to execute things, it's defense is one of those things that getting lined up right. Knowing your assignment and getting after it goes a long, long way. And then obviously when you scheme it up and you start to give opportunities, then getting your players in the best position possible, then you really could do some good things. But yeah, defensive players got to be accountable. There's no doubt about it, and everybody has to be accountable for it. And that's one of the things that defensively I've always been big on, like adjusting to the formation so you don't get caught in situations.
Absolutely.
Whatever your whatever your base is, I mean, when I was younger, I was a big 40 front guy. I became a big 30 front guy, but changed over time. But being able to adjust, because when people always ask, like, well, okay, you guys are 30 front. Well, yeah, but like if they got 2 tight ends, that's a 5-3. That's 52 front. We're gonna roll down a guy. If they put a wing there, we're gonna bring that strong safety into the box, and so like all those kind of things, those natural adjustments make a big deal. And when kids learn that enables you to know quickly what the problem is before, not just about what they're supposed to be, but also their alignments, which is such a big deal. I think defensive coordinators in high school, in my experience, because I call a lot of plays, but as a head coach, I've called plays for a long time. But I was a defensive guy, played defensive college. I always thought it helped me as a play caller, because I always think the biggest mistakes that a lot of high school coaches make is they do not adjust based off of your formations. So they get caught outnumbered in a lot of situations. And you know, doesn't matter what the offense style is. If you're getting
Sure.
caught, if you're short a guy, you're in trouble.
Mhm.
And you know, so I always tried to build in, and when I worked with Derek too, you know, because he was my DC, we tried to build in that flexibility that you adjust so we never get caught with our pants down, like,
Sure.
hey, they got too many guys. So we would always work all those situations to make sure we always had the right amount of guys in the right spots, and then play from there and dial things up from there. But
Yeah. And I
um,
think, Coach, that to kind of add to that, it's like alignment's the very first thing we talk about. So guys, we don't have a chance if we don't align correctly. Like
correct.
there's
Right.
no chance. It's so to your point, Coach, I'm the type of defensive coordinator. We're going to work one base coverage call in front alignment, but we're going to know how to do that against every formation family out there. You know, and we break it down to 5 formation families, and then there's some different wide receiver things. But that's what we try to tell the kids. Like, listen, if we're looking at this day one base, hey, Trey with the tight end, trips with an H-back, and 3 and 10 personnel trips. What are all those formations kind of like? We'll coach their trips.
Right.
Okay. So at minimum, if we can at least get to our trips check, we're going to be okay. Now, like, I'm not saying it's perfect, but we're going to be okay.
Right.
But I'm so with you. And I think it comes down to teaching football. And people ask me, you know, are you an odd guy? Are you an even guy? I said, man, my personal preference is I would love to say we had a jack defensive end that I could drop, play odd and even and still.
Yeah, what
I
do
would
we all?
love that. Yeah, I said for me personally and how I teach and how I think, 4-man fronts are the best for me. I said because I think we can still get what we want from an odd front perspective out of a 4-man front. So for me as an offensive lineman, I played tackle and center. I hated 4 eyes and I hated one technique shaded on the center. Absolutely hate it because I knew at some point in time I was going to be left out to dry on my own.
Mhm.
So we have fronts that can be traditional 3 techniques and 2 eyes, and we have it where we can run shade fronts where we get a 1 and a 4 eye. And I think, you know, it's easier for the kids, but just the way I think, and this could be incorrect, but, you know, odd is the best versus 10 personnel, but as soon as you add an H or a tight end, you have to adjust on defense. So I'd much rather be able to adjust to 10 personnel and be able to play base to everything else. But yeah, that's just kind of my personal philosophies. But yeah, I'm with you. I think if it was a perfect world, give me a tall, big field end and give me a hybrid outside linebacker who can play boundary in and 2 freaks in the middle. And I don't care about the rest. Just give me those 4. We'll figure the rest out.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, it's funny because my philosophy changed from being the 40 to more of an odd because of the fact that I found it hard. I found it easier to get athletes and harder to get D linemen, and it's and that's that's always a difficult thing at the high school level, depending on where you are, obviously.
Sure.
But now if you have those guys, then that makes a big difference. That gives you the ability to do a lot of different things, you know. So but I think the biggest thing is like to me, like the odd really it's not odd. Like I always tell Derek, like there's a tight end. We're in a 4. We have 4 guys. So that the guy walks up, you know, there's 2 tight ends we're in the 50, you know. So it's just there's trips. Then now we're in a better situation against one back.
Sure.
You know, there's 2 backs in the backfield. You can mess with alignments and walk guys up, right? So, but yeah, it's interesting. So what? Well, I don't know. Once you have to give away secrets, but since it's the off season anyway,
go for it, Coach. Go for it.
Well,
I'm in the market of looking for another job, coaching wise, anyway. So it's all good. It's all good.
There we go. So coverage wise, what is it you like to play off of it? Like, what are okay.
So I used to be, and the reason I used to be is because I try to grow every year. I was a huge rip Liz match guy out of the Bama world. A huge play outside leverage with your down safeties, funnel everything to the free safety, played match rules on 2. You know, if 2's up, in, or out, kind of a 1 high fit world is what we lived in, a neutral run fit. So we would do a lot of weak rotation where the weak safety spins down on 2 weak, or walk a linebacker to trips, and we're still going to spend week with the weak safety. 4-2-5 world, have a true star. So we were a big rip list match team. I still am a one high principle guy that likes to add 2 high for a wrinkle, if that makes sense. I think in high school,
is that because you just see a lot more run game?
I was going to say it's in high school. The easiest thing for an offense coordinator to do is say, "Hey, snap the ball and hand it to our best athlete." Everybody wants to run the ball. So playing one high more gives us the ability to be in that what I call a neutral run fit. We have a guy for every gap. And 2 high, if you play it correctly or you're not getting somebody to the run fit post snap, you're always going to be minus fit. You're going to have one less than gaps. And you can still get to the same thing. So, like, for example, we're a weak safety rotate team. We try to only ask him to play B to C gap. Most of the time we try to deuce it and for him to play C gap. There's no difference in playing 2 high and him playing the C gap post snap versus rolling and playing. So it's kind of hit or miss, but that's how I used to be, what I used to believe in. And that's still a big part of me. I'm a 1 high guy. There's no easy access throws, in my opinion. We're going to make the quarterback throw the field out, field 7 yards or less space. He's got to throw that, or he's going to have to be good enough to hit us with the horizontal stretch and the boundary on the comeback every single play. But I'm a big match guy. We have some guys that I'm buddies with. Spencer Carroll, he's out in Oklahoma, but he's really tight with Dante Barty and Kyle Kogan. They're on Oregon staff now, and they installed a lot of stuff with us since 2017, and it makes me think about the game a little bit more. And so I'm a zone match, man match kind of guy. That's what I believe in. I like mixing them in, playing man on one and bracketing or coning the number 2s, depending on personnel. But, Coach, just to kind of summarize this answer, if personnel didn't matter, who we were playing didn't matter, I'm a 1 high guy. I like playing match coverage. And the biggest thing I like to try to screw the opposing offenses is I want to mix up the run front. I want to match the run fit and read the run fit. So we have rules where, like, our defensive ends read the tackles, and based on what they do, that's what we do. Because I tell them, if you don't know what you're going to do, the offensive tackle don't have a clue to know what you're going to do. So there's calls where we're reading him. There's calls where we're not. So the biggest thing, and me and Jamie talk about it because he's an OC and we kind of battle all the time. I'm like, listen, man, you might know every check and how to shred us in every coverage and call we make. But does your 16-year-old quarterback, can he handle the stress of post-snap? And that's kind of where we're our 4 people with Dub Maddox. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Dub, but he's a big post-snap guy. He teaches like a system for that, and it has accelerated my coaching career. And so I just want to be a defensive coordinator that puts it in the hands of a 16-year-old once that ball snapped, not a 30 to 50-year-old who is really good at what he does.
Does that do you play against a lot of no huddle, or do you play against mostly huddle?
So honestly, we see mostly no huddle. We will see some teams that mix in their tempo of huddling. Maybe 1 or 2 true teams that actually huddle, but we see a lot of check with me style. So they call the formation, they get to it, then they call the play, is what we see a lot of. I'm a big coverage concept call guy on defense. So I'm going to call a call, and the kids know that we're going to be in that family, but the coverage is going to change based on the formation. So if we call in flex 6, which is what Alabama calls, basically over or under front, and 6 stands for weak side rotation, match, 3 match, 6 match. And our kids have to see what's the formation family. Is it 2 back? Is it trips? Is it 2x2? And they have to actually make the specific coverage call to that formation family. And then we also have game plans where it might be, hey, if we call green, that means, hey, we want to be in the 1 high world to these formations, but 2 high world to these formations. But then, like I said, I can call 6, and that means we're going to be in the 1 high world to all formations. So I think we put some ownership on the kids and some responsibility on them. Like, listen, we're going to give you the family we're going to be in, but you got to make the correct calls. And that's why communication is so important.
When you're in 6, do you just roll that coverage towards the numbers from a receiver standpoint and match it?
Yeah, so the base way that we do it is we'll set a passing strength. So what side has the most receivers, we'll set the nickel or the star to that side. And 6 really means that we're always going to rotate weak. So if it's 2x2, we're going to rotate weak and play match to both sides of the field. If it's 3x1 and we want to continue to play 6, we'll rotate the weak safety weak, and he'll play like what we call 4 to first crosser. And the will linebacker will walk over to the trips, and we'll play like flood coverage, what they call like skate and Mabel to the field. So that's the base way we do it. Now, I've been at places where I did not want my weak safety in the run fit. I was like, absolutely not. So in 2x2, we weak rotate because he could rotate and play match over number 2 in the boundary. But 3x1, we were going to strong rotate and play buzz, and the star was going to be over 2. This year, I've adapted a lot, and the reason I say I've adapted a lot, it was a unique situation. I am the AD at a charter school, and a lot of the public schools around here don't like the charter school, which I understand.
Yeah, I was going to ask about how that relationship is.
So I think it's gotten a lot better, and I think, I tried to help bridge that with I actually coached at high school in the area because we don't have football at the charter school. So I'm the AD at a charter school, but this past season I actually was the defensive coordinator at a high school in the area. And I think it bridged the relationship pretty well. But, this year it was unique. I kind of stepped into that role in mid-July because the current DC had stepped down. And, if y'all know anything about zone or man match coverage, that's not something you can put in 2 weeks and be like, oh, we're good to go. We're good for the season.
No, that takes reps. That takes a lot of reps.
Yeah. So, they were more of a spot drop zone team before I took over. And so what I did was we tried to play zone match. So instead of playing just spot drop cover 4, we tried to play some mod quarters and some other things. And so this year, our personnel, I've always been a 4-2-5 guy. This year, we were a 4-3 team. That's just who we were. We had a Sam linebacker. We didn't really have a star or a nickel.
It really is. You know what I mean? Like, I personally feel like, especially now, like you got to take into account a little bit of like what you see and what you're going to go against, what your league is made up of, you know what I mean? But then it really kind of comes down to, I think, personnel. I think you can make in high school, like you can get away with some things, right? Like you don't have to go down a list and be like, well, these are the measurables for this position. Absolutely not. Because look, I can't tell you how many times I've had, a guy that we throw in the interior D line who is nothing like an interior D lineman, but you know what? He's a hell of a wrestler and he understands it and he just gets shit done because he's just that kid. You know what I mean? So I don't think you want to pigeonhole yourself into some of that. Now, look, there are other times where I'm thinking, hey, that guy, he could be a DN, he could be an outside backer, he could be, you know what I mean? Like, I think in high school, it's difficult to find the right spot for guys. But I also think the more guys you teach certain positions, like now as they develop, because if you look at it like, hey, this guy's going to be an outside backer this year, but eventually by the time he's a senior, he's going to be our interior guy, right? Or, hey, this guy right now, to kind of keep him healthy and save him a little bit, like maybe we keep him over the top as a free safety, but eventually he's going to walk down and be this guy, he'll be the star or he'll be the penny or whatever it is that you want to do. I think you can develop some of those things, but if you have an overall system where this is what we do and guys learn it as it goes, I'm a big advocate of everybody knowing everybody's job rather than like just, okay, well, I'm a linebacker. I know what the linebackers do. Like, and that might be the safety in me, right? Because
I'm with you. And so to your point, Coach, like this year, we were such a strong rotation team to trips when we wanted to play our one high stuff. That's just who we were. Like when I got there, when I took over, the current DC was running 3 cloud, where the corner was the flat player, the strong was playing the third, and the Sam was splitting 2 and 3 and playing the inside curl. And I'm just not a huge fan of that. I don't like the leverages or the situations it puts the kids in. So I said, listen, we're still going to flood the coverage. We're still going to play some kind of form of cover 3 over the trips. I said, but here's what we're going to do. We're such a big 4-3 team. And then we had a nickel package where we'd send a DB in, but you had to really be elite with athletes and play a lot of 10 personnel for us to even consider going nickel, because that's just how much we loved our base package. So we just had the ability to where if we were in 4-3, we were going to put the Sam head up a 3. We were going to have more sky rotation and spin over 2. But if we were in a nickel, we would allow the star to play more inside shoulder to head up of 2 and spin inside more of a buzz technique with the strong. But like to your point, the kids understood the safety is going to spin where we're not at. And that was a great point, because the safety understood playing the cell technique when he's over 2, but he also understood playing the buzz technique over 3. So he knew where to help the guy beside him regardless of what he was trying to do. And that was a big help for us.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
And it's harder at the younger ages. I get it. You know what I mean? Like to have, or, you know, like, but I do, if you continuously stress to your players, like, guys, we got to know what's going on, right? Like, even if it's your base stuff, like, you know, for the most part. And look, one of the things, like, as the JV coach, right, sub varsity, I love doing that stuff. And those guys, you know what I mean? Like, hey, man, like, you got to understand it, but you know what? Like, we're going to go out there, and as long as you know the techniques and you know whatever, like, there's not going to be a lot of these calls, bud. But you know what? Like, here's what it is: stay base, fly around. You know the big picture stuff. So we'll be okay. Right. Like, and we're not game planning for this, right? Like we're just rolling it out, and we're just going to see how you play. But if they have those fundamental things in there, like, then they can still do what they need to do. And I think that's a big tell. And that's where you try things out, right? Like, hey, maybe this guy's maybe he can, because for the most part, you're rolling out there with like, hey, bud, you got to play quarter today. It's like, wait, what? Like, I'm a receiver. It's like, but guess what, buddy? Like, you're on this side of the ball today.
You got to figure it out, buddy.
Absolutely. So I think it's just some of those things, like when you can have those fundamental solids within a scheme itself, it allows you to now go and tweak and do certain things based off of what you're going to see. And you got to know your league, right? Like, you got to know the teams you see, you know, whether it is like when we were up more in North Jersey, it's a lot more spread, fast paced type of, you know, stuff. When we came down here, it's a lot more run game, wing tee, you know, that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So you got to adjust with it, and you got to kind of roll with it. And, you know, if you have certain athletes, they can play on any level. It doesn't really matter. So that's big though.
Agreed.
Coach, talk about so how you really started getting involved in like trying to up your ante from a tackling standpoint.
Sure.
And, you know, what brought you to Avitus, and and obviously now you're also doing clinics from that standpoint, those kind of things. Talk about that.
Yeah, man. So, you know, it all started 4 years ago. I was at a private school in North Carolina, and we had some really good personnel, and then we had some really average personnel. But what I noticed across all the personnel groups was we were not very good at tackling, you know, and it's that ownership. It's the ownership piece. It's like, is that because of me?
Doesn't it?
You know,
it's like one of the worst feelings ever.
It's like, is that because of me? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to assume all of it's because of me. That's just the guy I am. It's my fault. Like, we are terrible at tackling because I'm not teaching it to the ability it needs to be. So after my first year as head coach there, I took the entire offseason and did nothing but study tackling. And I went through the Football USA and the Atavus and all these different clinic tapes and watched everything I could find on tackling. And I was like, man, I grew up in the world of, man, get your head across. Like, you know, and I was like, you know, then I went through all the tackle training, and I'm like, man, what they're saying makes way more sense than the whole head across days. So, and I never played defense. So, you know, so I went through that world. I got super excited about it, man. And the following season, we improved tackling exponentially. Like, we still weren't great at it, but man, just where we were to where we ended up the second year was beautiful. And I've always wanted to try to train or coach kids on the side to, one, just try to make a little extra side cash. Why, you know, it's a part of what people do. But I really wanted to impact the game of football. I think our game is dissolving in a way. Numbers are lower than they ever have been. You have some schools in South Carolina that typically have a varsity, JV, and ninth grade team, and a lot of those have gone away. It's now just varsity and JV. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about some of the numbers and how it's certain things, especially with, I think, the growth of charter schools, right? Because South Carolina, you can, you know, I have some buddies that are down there and whatnot.
Yeah.
If you can totally correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
There's been a rise of charter schools recently, right? Throughout the state itself, in terms of just, I mean, some of these places have like 2 campuses I've heard of. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
so I think in South Carolina, there are probably 5 notable charter schools that I would say excel in athletics in a way. I know that one of them has won the state championship 2 or 3 years in a row. Another one is all right there, right behind them, really good. Another one's on the rise. So there's probably 5. But, numbers are going away because there's other opportunities for kids to go and play in education. And then I think a lot of the numbers, some are just going away because the game is so much more aware of the unsafeness, I guess is what people are saying. So the whole reason I started it was I was like, man, there's everybody in our area that trains quarterbacks and trains offensive linemen and DBs. I said, but there is nobody like there. But the way I thought about it was there is nobody training tackling.
Yep.
One of the most important skills of the game of football that happens almost every single play. Nobody's training it. I said, so this could be something huge to be able to do. So, it's nowhere where I want it to be. I mean, it's just I've only been doing it a little over a year.
I never even thought to think, you never think to do that, right? Because it's
sure.
Oh, you coach receivers so they can catch the ball. You coach quarterbacks so they can throw the ball. But D-backs, they can cover, pedal, and do all that other kind of stuff. But like the tackling aspect of it, there's not a guy that says like, hey, we win or lose by without tackling. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like missed tackles are probably one of the biggest factors in losing football games, right? Yet we probably, especially nowadays, do it the least, right? Whether it be because we're not allowed to or just because philosophy-wise, like it is what it is.
Sure.
Guys don't know how to teach it. They can't explain it. It's we don't get it. We don't get as much access to do it and rep it. And even when you do it and rep it and do all those things, it's still not game-like situations, right?
Exactly.
It's the hardest thing because we always talk about practices need to mimic games, and we need to be in game-like situations as much as possible, and that'll make the kids more comfortable, and that means that then they'll understand it more.
Sure,
dude, it's impossible.
It is
to mimic a game spot on when it comes to it. Yep. So the way you tackle when I'm telling you how to do it in a controlled environment is very different than what you're going to do on Friday night when the lights are on and all that kind of shit. You know what I mean? So
exactly. And that's why we break it down into 3 parts: the tracking, the contact, the finish. But it's like, listen, man, you can't replicate those directly to a game any way you want to shake it. It's just, we're going to try to rep and prepare you and teach you, because it made so much sense to me when I started learning all the different beliefs on near foot, near shoulder tackling. It made so much sense to me from a biomechanics standpoint with just the cutback. Like just the cutback. Hey, if I try to get my head across and they cut back on me and I overrun it, my hips are locked. There's no way I can adjust to make the tackle. But if I'm near foot, near shoulder, and somehow I overrun it and they cut back, my hips are open. I can stick that foot in the ground, and now I can redirect and still have a chance to make the tackle. So even take the safety part aside of it, I was like, this just makes so much sense to me from if we screw up, we still have a chance versus if we miss it and overrun it this way, we don't. Not to mention, I said, hey, guys, I do a demonstration every time. I take a ball carrier. I take 2 guys. I said, both of y'all, I want y'all to walk and act like you're going to tackle head across. And both of the kids' heads bang straight into each other. I'm like, there you go, guys. I said, better yet, let's just do one guy. I said, running back, defend yourself and hinge your hips and head-to-head contact. Boom. I said, guys, you're not going to be around long enough to play the game. I said, we want you to be able to get all the way into your senior year with the chance of not having a concussion. I said, now, we don't live in a robotic world. There's going to be times where you got to make the tackle and your technique's going to go out the door. I said, but if we can limit that to 3 times a game versus 33 times a game, guys, we're going to be okay. We're going to be in great shape.
And look, it's one of those things too, like you always, it's a great point, and you preach it. Like, David, I'll let you go. I just want to, I always tell guys, look, I'm going to teach you the proper way to tackle, and I'm going to expect that from you to do that in a game. But I'm just telling you right now, fellas, if you miss a tackle and you come to the sideline and say, well, coach, I was doing what you said. I said, we're going to have some issues. I said, so at the end of the day, get his ass on the ground. But I'm going to make it so your muscle memory has you doing the right thing automatically.
Well, I was watching the end zone copy of Miami versus Indiana on the first drive. Safety comes out the roof on one of those running backs. He's in perfect position for near foot, near shoulder. he doesn't do it. And just the blow he took on his head, I said, good Lord, how'd he get up? Like, but the bad part is he's in the position to do it. And don't get me wrong, that running back's both of them are really good, but it's like he was in great position to near foot, near shoulder it, and he got caught and stuck and his head got trapped. And I was like, man, I know that hurt. And you can see him get up and like, you can tell it just didn't feel good. And I'm like, God, like and it just validates. That's the reason why I want to. And honestly, I aim for kids between 3rd grade and 7th grade, 3rd and 8th grade. That's the level I want. And it's like, I also want the parents to know, listen, this is important because I'm trying to teach the safety of the game because, and this is no blow at any coaches, they may get to high school and not get the level of tackle coaching that I'm trying to provide. So at least they already know, because I mean, there are still teams I'll go watch practice and they're head across. And I'm just like I'm not ever going to overstep or tell somebody that what they're doing is I guess the word is wrong, but I want to just say, hey man, like, have you ever heard of near foot, near shoulder tackling? Like, please just look into it. So to y'all's point, currently I'm at the level of, just off the ground. I kind of do one-on-one sessions.
Collaborate, and I'll tell you why.
Sure.
I'm pretty good on the business side of things. So being around
absolutely
a long time, and running showcases and cams forever and all those kind of things. But so I learned about Avitus before in the summertime, and it was I coach high school football for 20 years. I now coach my son's group at they were 10U this year to be 11U. And I wanted to give kids a better way to tackle. And the USA football thing, to me, and what I knew from growing up, and I was already, because when I was coaching with me and Derek coaching together, we were doing that to an extent, but not, we were doing some of the
definitely in the secondary.
Yes, but it wasn't to the level that like Avitus opened my eyes. So I went and looked up and I was like, what's the best way to tackle? I started, literally ChatGPT, Google, started, and Avitus, it came across like, I was like, what are they doing in Texas? And then all of a sudden, when I was looking at Texas jobs, I saw every one of them's football jobs said that you needed to be Avitus certified to coach if you're going to coach at their school. So I think the Texas High School Coaches Association has it as a requirement for all Texas high school football coaches.
That is awesome.
So I was like, well, I should look into
right.
it. Why would they be doing this if it wasn't something that they thought was a better way to get guys tackled? This is the king of high school football. Like this is, most organized, most, coaches highest paid, all that stuff. They must be doing this for a reason. So I went and looked into it. And I had already done the USA football stuff for years. I really was never like, to me, it was all over the place. And, multiple styles of tackling. And like, I'm just like, you can't teach that to kids. Like kids need to understand certain things and just be able to rep it over and over again. And then in the game, there are situations where they are in different situations. You got to get them to the ground, but they'll have that base, right? And that's the most important thing. So I looked into it. I did the the certification made sense to me. I did both certificate just like you did, both levels, and then I started diving into the rugby world, like really diving into it, and finding some of these really like elite rugby trainers. What the All Blacks use out in New Zealand, and a lot of the better programs, the better trainers, what they were doing. And I was like, what equipment are they using? Because I saw you also have a lot of the Forza stuff. And I have that. There's stuff from World Rugby that I have, So, I mean, I live on that site. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, will this work for me in football? You know what I mean? So, like, I'm looking, I call them up. I'm like, okay, like, because, they have the three level thing. And I'm like, I don't know if I need the 3 level because it's a little different. You know what I mean? Rugby's a little bit different in some of the things they do. But the overall philosophy. And so I started getting equipment and I started applying it. And I applied it from day one. So I had been doing it with my son's group the last couple of years in spurts, but I never was like, guys came from different worlds. I didn't want to coach everything. You know what I mean? I running the team. But this year, once I came, it just was like this aha moment. So I sent all the guys. I said, you guys should do this. I knew they weren't going to do it. But I said, you guys should do this. Okay. It was 60. I was cheap. It was, I don't remember what it was, but it was inexpensive. But I said, if you don't, I'm going to teach it to you guys so you guys know. And so we could go through it. And at first, when I told it to them, they were a little hesitant, and I said, just trust me. We'll do this. They already knew my philosophy. Like, I didn't want to be, I didn't want to do any of the, head-on tackling. I wasn't big on that. I wasn't big. Like, I was already getting away from that in high school 5 years ago. So, and then we started implementing it. And our whole thing was we wanted, on days we were doing tackling circuits, we wanted a lot of reps doing it the right way, between tracking, between stationary, between slight movement. Like we have obviously volunteers at youth, right? So most of the time we'd have all our guys there. We'd have 5 or 6 coaches there, but sometimes we'd have 3. It didn't matter. We would just okay. If we only had 3 stations go, we would do two rounds of it. Like, so we covered the 5 or 6 things we needed to do, and we just repped it. And basically what ended up happening by the end of the year, even though a couple of our really toughest kids, wanted to do more of the live stuff, it was almost like forgotten about because they were getting so good at tackling, and we started to see it show up on the field, and we would show them every time on film. A guy would do it right, and what would happen to the player when he tackled them correctly? At first, it was very rare, but even my own son, who is a kind of he's a studly kid. He's a quarterback, but tackling wasn't natural to him. Okay. He doesn't wrestle. He's a basketball player. Wasn't natural to him, but he was an athlete. So he was getting guys on the ground. By the end of the year, I mean, he just tackles the same way. He just does it.
Wow.
Over and over again. He's come from safety. So he has to take that right angle. At first, he was missing. Early in the year, he was missing. He was like, I should just keep doing it. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing it because you're going to get the tracking down. And they tackled so well. Okay.
That's good.
And people started coming to us in our youth program because they would see me with all this funky equipment. You know what I mean? And in youth, it's different than high school. Like, I don't have a storage bin to put it in.
Sure. Yeah.
So and if I put it in a storage bin, Derek knows, I say it's going to walk. So this expensive piece of, how heavy those rugby pads are. Like,
so they're
solid. Go ahead.
So there's a guy, Andrew Ryland. I'm sure you've heard of him. I've heard a couple of his clinic talks or podcasts or speech. Every time Andrew Ryland talks, I've never met him. I look forward to one day talking to him or meeting with him. But every time he would speak, I'm like, man, this guy is just so brilliant and intelligent in this. And he comes, I think, from that rugby world. And then I met Richie Gray at the AFCA one day. He builds a lot of tackling dummies through Rydell. Or I think it's GSI or CSI, something like that. And he released a new one at the AFCA I saw this year where it's replicating the legs of a defender for you to tackle. And on our podcast, Ray Cruther, big football distributor, the Crowther sled is what they're known for, the Pan sled. Me and him, I have a great relationship with Hans Kraus, who's the owner there. And we were kind of talking through some things that I think it's listen, I know coaches would buy this if we make these. This is what we need to do. And it's just little things, but it's I said, well, at least you'd have one customer. I said, because I'm going to buy it. I said, if you make this, I'm going to buy it. So, but to your point, Coach, it's the unique equipment that you can use, at least in the off season, because people ask me all the time, what do you think is the most important part of the tackling? I said, well, getting there. I said, if you don't get there the right way, you're not going to be able to execute anything else. It's like alignment. If you don't align correctly, you can't play the assignment or technique you need to because you're not where you need to be. I said, same thing with tackling. My opinion, it all starts with the track. How do we get from point A to point B? Well, sometimes it's not linear straight there. So we have to understand what's the track. How do we set ourselves up for success when the contact and finish portion presents itself. And so that's what I always say. It's the track part. How do we get there? You know, and
the near hip, near foot, which was the biggest single adjustment. Not so the near hip we were kind of doing already.
Mm-hmm.
But the near foot was what opened my eyes, right? Because normally, if you go to the old way of tackling, your near foot would be almost in the crotch if you were tackling near hip, right?
Yes.
And the outside foot would either be even or in front of it, which actually puts you in a bad position, which is what I had to learn, and it's harder to track.
Yep.
So the way I showed it to my coaches, it was almost similar to what you did, but I said, okay, go and tackle me try to tackle me head across, and I'd make a quick move, and I said, you can't tackle me. If I make a move cut inside, I'm gone.
Yep.
Okay, you're gonna over pursue. And what happened is, and I was taught exactly that, like literally head across. I mean, look, in the 90s when I played at college, as often as we could, we wanted head down the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Type of thing. Like I'm not lying. Like
face on the ball, like like it's
I was
the ball, face mask needs to be there, eyes up, run through his chest, like the whole.
Yes, and I could tell you that was I was pretty good at it. Because athletically, that was my wheelhouse. But a lot of the linebackers in that space would have a problem, and even
nobody wanted that smoke.
No, it's a two-way go you're giving them. That was the issue always with head down the middle. It was a two-way go. You really had to be a freak athlete to make the play.
Sure.
Against a running back, like as we go against better and better running, like you go against a big old running back, it's not a problem. Although your neck might be real sore. But but when you get shifty guys, and I learned that against, I couldn't believe it when I was playing against. I always think back to this when I explain it to my coaches. Played against this running back Jerry Azuma, who went to the NFL actually as a DB. That's how good an athlete he was. And I would tackle him, and I was always having a hard time bringing him down, even though I was 235. He was $190 maybe. Okay. But I'm like, wow, he's very strong and he's very quick. His feet were always moving. So when I was coming down the middle and giving this guy a two-way go, by the time I actually wrapped him, I was using strength to tackle him. Strength. So now it's strength without – it was not as much – I didn't have as much legs underneath me.
Sure.
And I was using pure strength. So now he had an advantage, even though I outweighed him by a ton. He had an advantage. And there were times I was bringing him down. It was a struggle because he was so quick with his feet.
Sure.
And then there were other times like he broke a couple of my tackles, and I was like, "What the hell?" Like because he was elite, and then I was thinking, "Wow, okay, this guy ended up going to the NFL playing DB." But I thought, my goodness, like you never tackling a guy like Barry Sanders like this. Ever.
And I kind of gained that trust with our linebacker group this year. That's who I coached, the linebackers. And, we would do tackle circuit or some kind of tackling drill every single day. We would, but the linebackers really got the brunt of it because, we would mix it up a lot, but we would do Indy dynamic warm-up. So instead of warming up as a team, we'd go straight to Indy, and you had 5 minutes allotted to warm up. And so we knock our DW out in 90 to 2 minutes, and then we have 3 minutes to still tackle reps, and it's still a warm up. We're not doing anything full speed, but we would watch film, and the kids would want to be graded on tackling. Coach, what did I do wrong right here? I feel like I'm in great position. What did I do wrong? And it's to your point. I would say, listen, let's pause it. I said, man, your track is beautiful. I said, your contact is beautiful. I said, here's what's the issue. I said, you have to essentially have your ankle and your knee and your hip needs to be in this specific alignment. I said, you're either early engaging or you're engaging late. I said, and that determines whether you miss by leaning or you get ran over by being late. I said, so here, I said, you're slightly early. I said, so you lost your power because you tried to make contact too early. Your near foot wasn't in the ground. And he's like, that makes sense. I said, that's the hardest part of it, buddy. I said, it's timing. It is putting yourself. I said, and guess what? We can try to replicate it as much as we want in reps and practice, but unless we're going full tilt tackle at practice in a team period, it's the hardest part of it. I said, but guess what? This comes with experience, time, and tackling. Here's what we're not worried about. Your track's terrible. Your contact's terrible. I said, you're in a good position. I said, I can take missed tackles like this. I said, because everything else is good. I said, so, but it just, they want to be coached. They understand it. And like, they really,
that's why you got to start young too. That's why,
yes.
You know, so you can, when they're young, you could actually do it with less contact as far as like person on person.
Sure.
And utilize the bags, because by the time they get to high school, to your original point, you are no longer reliant on whether the coach has time to teach tackling, does teach tackling well. You're not relying on that, because you have the way of the technique of it. Now, the only issue you could run into high school is if you do get a guy that really doesn't buy into it, and then now he's trying to change your tackling. But that's a whole different issue. And I think over time you will see this part change dramatically.
Yes.
It's changed in the NFL, it's changing in college, it's changing in high school. And I think that it's an essential part to getting to go back to your point about participation. If you want mom to sign off on tackle football has to be taught outside of the tackle season without people. You know what I mean? With pads, you could drag pads, you could have them hold pad, but without actually like pads being a part of the process, because it changes the confidence of the player in tackling.
100%.
The biggest problem in tackling for all ages, from young all the way through high school, is the confidence in making a tackle. And if I didn't see it with my own kid, right, I wouldn't like. My own son is not how I was as a. I wrestled. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I was my son's a basketball player. I was a wrestler. Like from the time I was 5, 6 years old, I wrestled. So when it came time to do tackling at 8, 9 years old, I already. Oh wow, that's what tackling was. Like I was already way far ahead. So, and I was already aggressive. So it was so my whole thought process is, you know, you're not going to, when you get wrestlers, you know, that's really easy to go ahead and teach them also. And they pick up the near hip your foot pretty damn quick. Right.
Yeah. And I think, you know, if we're not looking at it, so we live in a day and age where, like, when I grew up, we hated the teams that we were playing until the game was over.
Different. They're all friends, bro.
We weren't following each other on Twitter and reposting their posts. It's like we were enemies until our game was over. And then after the game, we shake hands, dap each other up and talk. But it's like the biggest thing.
Different world, man.
It is. It's like us as coaches, we worry about personnel. We worry about, okay, how good is this running back? Well, man, this cat's good. We are in the second round of playoffs. We played Burns High School in South Carolina, one of the best stadiums I've been in. The kid's a junior, and he's being offered by everyone, and I know why. Because when I turned the film on and started watching, I said, well, that's going to be a struggle right there, boys. But as coaches, we worry about personnel. But I don't think in this day and age we take into consideration enough that those kids are also stressed and worried about personnel. They know who is all about hype and who's the real deal. So when we're going to play a team and they have a really good player that the kids already are aware of and they know, like you said, Coach, it's that confidence part. It's like, I know this kid's been offered by Clemson and Georgia and all of them, and me, little old 180 who hasn't been offered by a D3 school, I have to tackle that kid this week. They stress and they get worried about that. To your point is like, this is a confidence thing. Listen, and I want the kids to know, hey, we've given you all the tools to go tackle this guy. If you do everything you're coached to do and you don't make the tackle, hey, man, it's okay. Keep moving, because guess what? He's a freak of nature, man. He's a different animal. But here's what I can tell you. If you don't rely on your tools and your techniques, you're going to get embarrassed. Like, straight up. Like, I would rather you have the rules, the techniques, and everything, and not tackle him and say, hey, man, next time work your squeeze better. You got to hang on to that monster, versus you go out the door and like try to do your own thing and then you get embarrassed. Like he cuts back. Yep. So that's a thing I took in consideration is these kids know who they're playing against more than us coaches do.
Absolutely.
And that
there's no doubt
ties in to your confidence part.
I mean, shit, with the way the travel world is and all that kind of stuff too, like most of these guys have either played together or got like they've already played each other, like, or they've been at a camp together, or they, you know, possibly play other sports together. Like they're so in tune with what is going on with everyone around them, and with the way social media blows it all up and does that. It's the constant comparison game. And look, I love some of the best relationships I have with dudes are from playing, you know what I mean? Like either on the same team or competing, but it wasn't the way it is now where these guys literally know each other. I mean, if you shook hands before the game, like we may never get to the game because it would be a chop it up session.
Oh yeah.
But they're aware of it, man. They really are. And I think that's what's changed. It's something that's changed about the game. That's for sure.
Yes.
We used to always teach, you don't worry about what the other jersey says on it. You know what I mean? You just play the game as if they don't have a jersey on. You don't know what that jersey number is. But that's harder today because they're like, but you know what I mean? Yeah. But he plays for Birds and his number is 34, you know?
Yeah. I got away a couple of years ago from saying, guys, they put their pants on like we do one leg at a time, because that was code to the kids. They got some dogs and they got some good players on that team.
Right.
Like, so they started associating.
Kids are definitely smarter than we were, buddy.
You're tipping them off, right? You're tipping them off.
Shit.
So now,
nervous.
Hey guys, this is a heavyweight fight. That's how I do it. Hey, listen, if you think we're going to go shut them out and hang 50, then we're not thinking realistic. We're thinking optimistic. Listen, this is a heavyweight fight. It's going to take every snap, every play, every quarter. That's all I can say, guys. This isn't David and Goliath. This isn't, hey, we're going to give them everything we got. No, it's a heavyweight fight, and we need to show up and be ready for 4 quarters. As I got away from we put the pants on one leg at a time, because that's just code for our pants are smaller and their pants are bigger because their personnel stronger. So I got away from that years ago.
No doubt about it. I think the other thing too, that eventually, as GPSs start to come down to high school more and more, and coaches understand how to use them, you'll be able to track that force that's generated at the point of impact, and you'll be able to show that the level of force you're able to deliver doing it the correct way with the correct form when that happens is going to be a lot higher, because we got all these measurement tools now, and you'll see that. And once that starts to be able to get generated, that's going to take a few years. And they may be doing that data. I'm sure they're doing the data already in college.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. It's just it takes a while to get down to high school.
Yes.
And probably 15 years before it gets down to youth. But it takes a while to get down to high school. And once that starts to happen, no doubt, like you could say, you can start to point to scientific facts too, which is really, really big. I wonder if I wonder if rugby has already, because they around the world, I wonder if they already have a lot of these numbers, because those guys all use the catapults, and because catapult all started in Europe with soccer anyway. So they all use them. They've been using them for a long time. So I wonder if there is, but yeah, it's really, really interesting stuff, Coach. It's been awesome having you on.
Yeah, man, I've enjoyed it. It's been a great conversation, man. I think we could probably go all day if we wanted to.
We could easily.
Yeah,
we could, but then we'll be at lunch and I'll have to miss lunch.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, I'm an O lineman at heart. I don't want to do that. But guys, I truly appreciate it. And man, like I said, we do a podcast, and every time we bring a guest on, it's a clinic and a learning session. And it's the same thing with this. I've taken stuff that both of you have said today, and it's made me think differently. And it's going to change my trajectory at some point in my coaching world. So I appreciate y'all having me on, and the insights you provided to me, man. This has been great.
No doubt. Thanks, Dustin. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Coach.
Bye. Loved it. Yep.
They do. Even before you got on, he's like, man, you guys have done, you've been doing these for a while. And I was like, yeah, we're getting close to 300. And he's like, shit, buddy, I didn't realize how much went into the podcast and stuff, and just doing this and doing that. And I'm like, yeah, it's not that. I'm like, it just depends on how you do it, man. You know what I mean? It's all.
Well, the hardest part is to guess, which now, because we've done so many, in the beginning, I'm sure it was pulling teeth, other than the people we know, obviously.
Which is how you got to build it to begin with.
But now, there's no guy, if they don't come on, it's actually a mistake, because if you're building your career, like I just point to Tony Holler. Like when we had Tony Holler on, it was because originally I saw it on Instagram, and he had some videos that were like getting a little bit of traction, but I just liked his stuff and I kept like watching it. It started coming to my algorithm, and he had like 0 following at that point, like almost none. Not within the track consortium world. He did have a following with the crew he had already, but it wasn't an external group. He didn't even have a podcast then, if you remember.
No, and then he got the link with the coaching coordinator, right? So then they gave him kind of a little spot that he could do his thing and go from there, which I think was big for him.
And he's not doing that anymore. I think he's doing his own thing now, right? I think, right?
Well, I know that was like a segment within that, like where it was the sprint football, whatever. I don't know. I think he talked about having like a contract or whatever for that, but who knows? I mean, he could do whatever he wants, to be honest.
Oh yeah, now, yeah. Well, shoot, if you sell a couple of those 1080 machines on simplyfast.com, I mean, shit, the commission on that at 18 G's a pop. Yeah. What is that? If they give you 20%, what are we talking about there? That's a good amount of money, man. I think I might have to get myself on the 1080 distributorship thing here. So if you see them magically appear as a sponsor, you know we're distributing 1080s. It's really cool. I got now the website. I got it where, because I'm utilizing my skills with the AI to do it, and now I got it where it's pulling up, and you could literally do the filter. So I would say one more week I'll have that website ready to go. You could click on the filter by category, or by person. So you could go in there if you want to look at Tony, boom, you can look at Tony and his profile, and then the next thing will be linking all their did you have their links to the videos?
No, because we didn't have, you know what I mean, like some of them aren't, I don't know where to go to get them all.
I'm going to try and figure out how to do that. I might be able to build a tool for that to grab them,
because I'm thinking like like where are they? Like, are they all on
YouTube? And they're most of them are in the Prospect Podcast folder, basically the playlist. But there are some that probably aren't. So I probably have to go through that. I'm putting in the website the Prospect Podcast playlist, so that will be available on the website. So you can kind of just
then they can just go and be like, here we go.
Yeah. But I want to link it to their bios. So if you click in and you just want to watch what we did with this guy, I'm not going to put the shorts, and there's too many shorts. There's like thousands.
There's a lot.
Yes, thousands. I'm not going to do that. But the actual long form, you know what I mean? They could go and grab the actual when they appeared and get that in there, because that will be cool too. So they could come on there, and then what that will eventually do is now, and actually you could probably send me your no, I don't want to do that. So I want them to fill out the form, and then I'll forward it to you when they come in. They say they want to request. If they request, they want to come. That way you could still filter them. You know what I mean? Yep. Like filter request. So when it comes in, I'll create just so it goes to your email, my email. That way you'll see it and you'll be able to say, okay, this is a guy I'm interested, because you'll get a lot of garbage. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So but that way you could go through, and then you can get another avenue to, like, I get people that reach out to me from these I forwarded some of them to you. I like
some agencies that are like, they're almost like publicists.
Oh, they're publicists. It used to happen to me all the time with the legendary leadership thing I did, because I was having all those guests. This is a long time ago, but I was having all those guests. It was kind of like this, but really just on leadership. And I had all those guests, and then, but because I did all of those podcasts, not just video, but I did them I put them all on Spotify. I still get, I'm telling, I haven't done a podcast in that at least a year or two, and I still get every day.
Well, Spotify's big, man. Spotify, you can like leave comments on it and all kinds of shit. Like Spotify is more.
I'm gonna
like
upload
social
all
media. It's crazy though.
The good thing about our episodes, they're evergreen for the most part. Meaning, like, it's not like they're timeless. Meaning, I upload it. If it was 2 years ago, for the most part, it doesn't. Time is really not the issue. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
So it can upload. I have a bunch of them up on Spotify, but I need to get like another 100. You know what I'm saying? Up there. And but it's amazing because all the agencies still reach out to me for that, but they're now starting to reach out for the Prospect podcast. They're like, hey, you know, they don't really know because I have all these different things. They're not sure which is which, but if I see something that's like a Prospect podcast kind of thing.
Yeah, I've gotten some of them. I've answered a bunch of them.
Yep, and but it's. I mean, there's nobody doing the amount of episodes we're doing. Really, I don't know of anybody.
No, we crushed it this January. We went hard.
I don't know that. Like, it's interesting. I by the way, I see all the commitments coming through. By the way, I'm guessing all the kids got their parochial school. What do you call it?
Letters, acceptances.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
I'm
waiting for somebody will do a signing day at their house or some shit.
Yeah, well, that's always going to be. I guess it's always going to be that.
I'm working on getting one of our parochial school friends on. One we have not had. So.
Oh, good. In public school, like.
Well, I've also seen some public schools start to do this too, buddy. Like, we're going to have a signing night, almost like a media night type of thing for the 8th grade.
It's a good idea.
I think is cool. I think it's a great idea. I think it's
you got to fight fire with fire.
That's it, buddy. And you know what? Like, hey, if you're going to do it, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it bigger, better, and whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is. Like, I can do something.
I think they should.
And look, and I agree. If you feel like it's something that will add to your whatever, then you go and do it. Like, personally, not to say names or whatever, like, but I think Warren should do it at Absegami because he's fighting 100%. With other guys for that thing.
He's fighting with other publics.
That's what I mean. Like, you're in a district where other guys are like, if you have that type of thing, go. Now, like, for me, would it make sense? I don't think so. What's the difference? Yeah. What, like, it would just be for the kids themselves, or hey, we do it like, if you're going to come here, you do this, right? Because it's not. I'm not swaying anybody's decision. It might be if somebody was thinking about maybe going private or staying, you know what I mean? Like, maybe that changes, but like, it's more of like an information piece.
Would be a good idea. All these kids are coming to us. Here's a media day. Meet the kids that are coming to
have a parent meeting. That's where you get introduced to the parent meeting. Here's the freshman coach. Here's this coach. Absolutely. Here, look, there's jerseys. Like, yeah, dude, all that kind of shit, dude.
We did a media day. And I think that's
stuff's important, man.
Yeah, I think listen, you know, you can learn from what the parochial kids do. You can learn because they're in such a dog-eat-dog world, right?
They're in a fight for their lives, brother.
They're not fighting with you. That's the greatest thing. So public school, what I've learned,
fighting with each other, bro.
Yes, public school coaches think they're fighting with them. They're not.
They could care less about you.
They actually don't really.
Like, buddy, you're no offense, but you're the bottom of what.
No, it's not. They don't think of you as the bottom. They think of it as. Listen, we have to play these schools. We need to be able to compete with these schools. They don't even think like they're not like looking at it like this kid goes to this town. Yeah. In the old days, they probably did, but now they don't.
When it first started, now it's
like I need this kid. I need this kid. You know,
I already know that this school told him he could do this, or this school said he could do that. You know what I mean? Like, I already know that. Like, I know this guy told him he's going to start from day one. I'm not doing that, you know, or whatever it is. It's just like college recruiting. It's like,
it is. It's definitely
funny.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
and I know of a couple of interesting announcements that are going to come out soon too. So
some of the spots are interesting.
Yeah, I saw some kids from the shore that were going up north, and then I saw some that were staying.
Yeah, I mean, some of the ones that like I expected to stay.
Yeah, there was a couple that went up. I'm trying to think of who I saw that were going up north. A couple of the St. James kids, I think, were.
Oh, That's gonna make some St.
Yeah,
James.
but every year that's gonna. I mean, so one of the pros, I always say that one of the pros of a all-star team is you do get a larger exposure to like a lot of these parochials, but it's not just your parochial it's all of them. They all know of it because they're all tracking it, right?
And
so
you're all doing
you're also
whatever.
halfway inviting in. So in AYF, at least where we are, right? AYF, the parochials locally definitely know who the good AYF players are, but you don't. But I don't know that Don Bosco, unless there's pub around the kid, like really a lot of pub. I don't know that the Northern parochials come down to AYF games.
No, absolutely not.
But they're definitely going to go.
Or somebody might.
Yeah, but if they hear about a kid, right?
Correct. No, they're not coming down here generalization because they don't need that. Because remember, those guys go to them. There's no reason for them to reach out because most of those kids go. You know what I mean? Like it's.
But if you have an all-star, the more all-star teams you have, those kids are gonna. There's pros and cons to it, obviously.
Of course.
What I was gonna say is that like I could think, it's interesting because I'm thinking about like my kids' teams and Wombo's team and some of the other good teams that we play with. Like I could think of between the top 4 teams that went in our group, there's probably eventually going to be a ton of kids that could be parochial kids. But
I wonder how many go.
I do. Well, I don't know. Like River Plaza and Middletown. I don't see that many. I already kind of know in my head which kids will. Now on my side of town, River Plaza is. Some of those kids will go to CBA and not even play football again, just because they probably
nature of the beast.
Yeah, they're going to end up specializing in another sport, right? Because they're great athletes and they love football, but they might end up being this like
other sport is
lacrosse. And if you're a smart kid down here, like if you're really, really highly intelligent kid, a lot of them go to at least in the towns we live in. I live in.
Correct.
They'll go. It's literally your backyard. So unless if you're not going to go to public school, like it's your backyard. So, but anyway, I lost Derek there. But yeah, I think it's really interesting discussion. Although I don't know if it's good discussion if I have it by myself. So anyway, we will see you next week. I'll give Derek another minute if he's coming back, or if he's not, if he's gone. Well, we will see you guys next week. Another great episode on the Prospect Podcast website coming out soon, and we will see you very, very soon.